Hi guys, welcome to yet another lecture in your JSON class, and in this lecture what we are going to do is see the different data types in JSON. I know we have theoretically talked about it, how similar they are along with JavaScript, but in this lecture we will see the actual data types, some examples so that we understand better on what these data types are. Now, one thing to note is that when you go and check JSON object, there are different data types. So in JSON, values must be usually in one of the following data types: a string, that's one of the options. Then you can have a number. You can also have an object. Just like the JavaScript object we can also have a JSON object. You can have an array, or you can have a boolean, which is a true or a false. And if nothing, you can have a null value. Now, the way the JSON is different than JavaScript is JSON doesn't allow few of the data types. So the first thing that it doesn't allow is functions. So you can never have a function in your JSON file. Let me just put a bifurcation here. Not allowed in JSON. So one is a function. The second thing that is not allowed is a date. So remember, in JavaScript we had a date object. We do not have that kind of a feasibility in our JSON object. And of course the last one, which was the undefined, which was one of the initial values for any variables when it came to JavaScript. However, JSON doesn't support that. So let's quickly go on and start seeing one of these items. So the first thing that we are going to see is, of course, a string. So when you want to see a string, you can just do a variable x is equals to, again, just like you define your object, you will have a name value pair. So name and whatever is the value of that string, again, all of it should be in your double quotes. So the way you have it is x is equals to name John. Now you can also do a console log, and again the answer will be the object that you see. So let's run. Let me turn the console out. Let's run this, and you can see that's an object, and the object is name John. So again, by default it will actually display you the string that you have in x, which is the JSON object. Now again, when you're doing a console log, you will see an object. However, when you want to actually convert everything into text, there is a method or a function which we will see in the next video. Now that was about the string. Now let's try to reallocate the value to a number. So the way you want to do it is, if x is equals to a number, what you will do is, again, you will have a name value pair, let's say age, and you can say age is equals to 25. Now numbers do not need to be in quotes. So that's one thing that's different than JavaScript, the string. So if you see age 25, you do not need a quote for numbers. Okay. Let me move this console.log at the end so we know what the value of x is going to be. Now, if you want to make sure that it's an object, doing it as an object is very easy. So let's say you have an object which is for employees. So what you can do is, you can just give the double quote start employee. So that's your employee object. It has to be enclosed in parentheses. Let's say you have a name and you have a value, let's say John Doe. So you have John as the name. Okay. Now this is first key, this is the employee, and it has name. Now it can have more parameters. So along with name, it can have more items. So what you can do is, you can move it to the new line so that you can see the first parameter is John, give a comma. So now you can have the second variable that you want. Let's say you want to add the age. So age is again 25, which is a number. So you do not have to worry about what was the data type. Always, whenever you do not give a double quote, it's assumed to be a number. Let's say you want to give another variable, say city. So you have to make sure that it is in quotes, and you can say New York. Okay. So that's how you can write your objects in JavaScript, as well as the JSON objects, the way you're preparing it. So that's very easy to do. If you have multiple employees, you will pretty much enclose it into array. So now let's say what the result is. You run this and you can see the object of employee outputted onto the screen. Now the values in JSON can also be an array. So as I mentioned, you can have x is equal to an array too in the JSON. So the way you can give it is, you start with the name or the key. So let's say employee, and the value can actually be an array. So yes, so the way you can have it is, let's say John, Tom, Abhay. So these are the values for your employee. Now if you run this again, you will see that you have, okay, it's not cleared, it's not assigned yet. So X is equals to, let's run it again. And you can see the employee John, Tom and Abhay got displayed. Again, this is an array. So you will just iterate over the array the way you do it in your JavaScript. Now you would have guessed it very easily on how the Boolean is going to be. And I'm sure you would have already thought about to, do it yourself. So let's do it. Let's say what the value would be. So let's say, is the sale on or no? In that scenario, you can have a value as true or you can have a value as false. It's very easy. And again, just like numbers, you do not put quotes when you are giving a Boolean value. So let's clear and you can see sale is true. And of course, the last but not the least, which is the null value. So you can give anything that you want to, like you can initialize X is equal to something and you can give it a value, let's say employee, and you can give it a null value rather than a array. And let's clear the console, run it, and you can see employee is null. Again, you do not need to give quotes, because if you give quotes, this becomes the string value. So it will give you a string of null versus the null value. So this is counted as a string, it's not empty. Okay, so that's the difference between null. So that's how you can actually create your own JSON objects. And again, we have just outputted onto the console, but this might be an input to any of the API, and then this might come out from any of the API actually, so that you can use it in your application to display a lot of data that you want to. Now again, as usual, I will be sharing this JSBin URL with you, so you have all the examples with you in the resources section. If you have any questions on the data types that we have seen so far for the JSON object, let me know in the Q&A section or in the comments below, and I will be super happy to work with you. In any case, I will see you in the next class.